Hey everyone, my name is Nathan and welcome to Hail. My last video was my first time watch awards for the year 2020, and I thought that it would make it a lot easier for future award show videos if I actually show you what movies I saw for the first time throughout the year. So in this video, I will be talking about all my first time watches for the month of January 2021 specifically. I'm gonna warn you right now, there are several movies on this list that got a 1 out of 10. Before you comment and say that's super harsh, hear me out. If I watch something and I genuinely dislike it enough to the point where even thinking about it, I dislike it even more, I'm not gonna give it more than a 1 out of 10. I didn't enjoy it. Why should I praise it more than it deserves to be praised? And so before you comment, wow, you give those movies 1 out of 10, just realize they deserve a 1 out of 10. I don't think there's too much more to explain. Let's just get started. The first movie I watched of the year was The Secret of Kells. Cartoon Saloon has a great list of movies up their sleeve. They have The Song of the Sea, Wolfwalkers is their most recent one, and they also have one called The Breadwinner. The Secret of Kells was the only one I had not seen. I was at home in Arizona with my little sister. We both are suckers for this animation studio, and so we thought, hey, let's let this be the first movie we see this year. So we watched it, and I really enjoyed it. The animation is absolutely stunning, but that's kind of a given with this film studio. Of the 4 movies I've seen from this studio, The Secret of Kells is actually one of the darkest. I say the next contender is The Breadwinner, but this one is pretty dark. In fact, there's a whole entire sequence where you see a village be attacked and destroyed. I was kind of shocked to be seeing it in a kid's film, but one of the problems I have is I feel like there's such a cliche trope in these films from this studio specifically, where the kid is always trying to tell their parents something very important, but it's that cliche trope of the parents never listening to the kid. That happens in this movie as well. It happens in The Song of the Sea, happens in Wolfwalkers. It's just kind of an overdone trope for this film studio, and I'm kind of tired of seeing it at this point. I'd rather see a movie now where the parent actually does listen, and they take the story in that direction where the parent is actually on the child's side. Then I watched Wonder Woman 1984, like most of you have seen recently, and I didn't enjoy it. In fact, the only thing I really liked was Hans Zimmer's score, but that's always a given for a film that he composes. I also like Pedro Pascal's ridiculous over-the-top acting, and the mid-credits scene was just really kind of sweet and it brought a smile to my face, but everything else in this movie was just pretty much garbage. The New Mutants was a movie that I was really excited to see when I saw the trailer back in 2017. And then the more and more that it got delayed, the less and less I was excited to actually see it. I finally ended up watching it on my plane ride from Arizona back to Idaho, and this movie is a mess. I really didn't like it. From the get-go of the film, I already thought that it was pretty much trash. Blue Hunt plays the main mutant in this film, and this is her only acting credit, so it's probably a little unfair to say that she's an awful actor because she hasn't been in anything else, but I'm definitely not gonna say she's a good actor by any means. I just did not think her performance was good at all. Like, her line delivery in some scenes made me feel like I was watching a Goosebumps episode from the 90s. I really didn't care for any of the other performances either. I guess Macy Williams, she had a good performance, question mark. Anya Taylor-Joy was like fine, but she plays the stereotypical female bully, and so that wasn't anything exciting to see. I just really dislike this movie. I'm taking a film class this semester, and it's really cool because I have been trying to get into this film class for many semesters. It's my final semester of my undergrad, and it is taking care of my humanities credit that I need to graduate. Anyways, I'm in this class, and it requires us to watch several films throughout the semester, of course. The first movie we watched was The Gold Rush. Now, there are 2 versions of this film, the 1925 version and the 1942 version. I recommend watching the 1925 version if you want to see the true silent film version of the film. I saw the first 20 minutes or so of the 40s version, and what it is it's the same silent film, but instead of it being a silent film, Charlie Chaplin narrates the entire thing. And so, in my opinion, that's not a true silent film. That's just a remake of a silent film, if you will. Remake, I guess. I mean, it's Charlie Chaplin under it doing the same work, so I don't even know if remake is the right word to use, but it's just like a reimagining of it. How about let's say that? But anyways, The Gold Rush was a really enjoyable movie. I have yet to see a Charlie Chaplin film that I dislike. All of them are just very enjoyable, funny, very innocent as well, and I think those are the biggest takeaways I have from Chaplin films. This one has that famous sequence where he's dancing with the rolls at the dinner table, as well as the cabin hanging off the cliff. Half of it's off the cliff, the other half is on land. Just like any other Chaplin film, there's a lot of fun gags throughout the film. You know, I guess my only gripe is Georgia, the love interest in this film. He deserves so much better. She's like a total tool to him. News of the World is a film that was released last year, and I caught it at the cheap theater here in town, and I watched it with my roommate. We both really enjoyed it. Paul Greengrass is the modern master of suspense in my opinion, or at least one of them. He is really good at making suspenseful moments in his films where your heart is racing and you're wondering how the character is going to get out of a certain situation. I mean, he's the director of Captain Phillips, which is just non-stop thrills, and he also directed several Jason Bourne films, which is also non-stop action and contains several scenes of suspense. And so Paul Greengrass is known for those intense movies. There's a specific scene I really enjoyed where it's a shootout in the mountains, and that was thoroughly enjoying to watch. It's Tom Hanks and this young girl he's traveling with versus 3 other cowboys, and it was really cool to see that whole sequence take place. I'm trying not to spoil it, but there's a loved one that Tom Hanks has lost in this film, and there's a really serious scene where this person is telling Tom Hanks that his loved one is buried in the garden of the churchyard. And it was funny because the theater next over was Monster Hunt. In that scene, it's this like really serious, emotional scene where he finds out that his loved one's buried in this cemetery. And at the same time, the bass was super loud in that other theater. And so it's like your loved one's buried in the cemetery of the churchyard, and then it's like and like gets all crazy. My roommate didn't realize there was a movie next door happening, and so he thought that the bass was for that scene. And so it's really funny to imagine the bass just dropping after that bad news is shared. Invictus was the next movie I watched for my film class, and you're probably wondering what was the point of watching this for a film class. It's kind of a forgettable movie if I'm being completely honest. I honestly don't even remember why we watched it. I think it was because we were studying how films have impact on society with their social problems that they present, and Invictus has several social problems that they address in the film. The movie itself was fine, nothing too memorable if I'm being completely honest. In fact, preparing for this video, I had to rack my brain just thinking about what I watched in the first place. The performances that are given are good. And also, what was up with the ending having so many slow motion shots? To this day, I don't know if that's part of the movie or if my Wi-Fi was just really bad that day. One of the supplements in the Criterion edition of The Night of the Hunter includes a documentary where you see the behind the scenes filmmaking of the film. This documentary is called Charles Lawton Directs The Night of the Hunter, and I thoroughly enjoyed this documentary. I don't think I've ever seen such an in-depth look at how a movie is made. I mean, you hear the director, Charles Lawton, behind the camera directing his actors. He has them redo the scene several times until he likes it, until it meets his satisfaction and his criteria. He was also quite the perfectionist, and so you could also see the actors get aggravated at times. It was just very fascinating to see because I've never seen anything like this, let alone for a film that was made in the 50s. While watching this, I simultaneously rewatched The Night of the Hunter, and I don't talk about rewatches in this video necessarily, but I just want to put a plug in for that. I highly recommend that if you have already seen Night of the Hunter and it's due for a rewatch on your list, I would rewatch it while watching this documentary because it's cool to watch the scene in the film, but also pause it, switch to the documentary and see how that scene was filmed. My roommate and I then watched The Queens Gambit, a miniseries on Netflix. It came out last October, and so I'm a little late to the game, but I really enjoyed this miniseries. It's only 7 episodes long. I don't really have any gripes about it either. It was especially fun to watch because my roommate is really good at chess, and so they would start playing their game in the series, and my roommate right away would be like, oh, that's the Sicilian Defense, or that's the Queen's Gambit, or, you know, I'm just naming off the 2 openings I know. I don't even know if Sicilian Defense is an opening. It was fun to watch with him. There are even moments where we paused it and he told me about like the history of chess and what they're doing. And so he could call what they were gonna do before they even did it. Anya Taylor-Joy is never an actress that I particularly loved, but this series really made me love her. I really enjoyed her performance. Honestly, like all the performances in this show were really good. Ironically enough, the first episode of the series and the last episode of the series were my 2 favorites of the entire show. I was just really satisfied by the time the series ended. And it also has a killer score. Like I've already added several tracks from this series to my study playlist, and it has very much so helped me while I study. Recently, I finished the book The Illustrated Man, and so I wanted to watch the movie that they made for it. It stars Rod Steiger. I really like him as an actor. Haven't seen too many movies of his, but the movies I have seen, really enjoy. So I gave it a watch, and I thoroughly disliked this movie. Just look up the trailer and you'll see it's not a well put together film. The Illustrated Man is a book of several different science fiction stories written by Ray Bradbury. It's very Twilight Zone-esque, and so if you like Twilight Zone, I actually highly recommend reading The Illustrated Man. This film had so much potential and it was totally wasted. I didn't like the camera style. I didn't like the acting too much. Rod Steiger did good. Everyone else was not very good. I didn't like the music in it. I really didn't like anything from this film. I then watched His House. This was a movie that I found out about last fall when it was first released on Netflix. You know, I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. It definitely is a very deep horror film, and so I appreciate that because there are a lot of just mindless horror films out there that you just turn your brain off and watch them and enjoy. This one actually went pretty deep. It had a pretty cool twist towards the end that I enjoyed. I thought the main two leads did really good in the film, but overall, it's not a movie that I ever plan on revisiting. Two notable TV shows that I've been watching. So in the month of January, I watched seasons 2 through season 4 of The Clone Wars, and this show is really picking up. It has been an absolute chore to get through, but now it's finally picking up, and I'm getting to those good episodes that everyone talks about towards the end of the show. I just watched the season 4 finale last night, and I really enjoyed it, so I'm at the beginning of season 5 now. Please don't post any spoilers in the comments below. I could talk for a long time about the Clone Wars, and so rather than doing that, I'll just share some episodes that I really enjoyed. I'm just gonna pull it up on IMDb. Season 3, these episodes: Night Sisters, Monster, Witches of the Mist, Overlords, Altar of Mortis, Ghosts of Mortis, and The Citadel, and Padawan Lost and Wookiee Hunt. Those were my favorites out of season 3, so the show's really picking up, as you can tell. Those were quite a few. Season 4 started off really rough, but it got way better on episode 7. The whole Umbara storyline with the clone troopers and Master Krell was amazing, and it's possibly my favorite storyline I've seen so far in the show, so watch that if you're gonna watch anything. It's episodes 7, 8, 9, and 10 of season 4. And then I also really liked episode 17, The Box, as well as the finale, which is called Revenge. Clone Wars is getting so much better, and I'm really excited for the month of February because I will likely finish the TV show, or at least be really close to finishing it by the end of February. So keep an eye out for that in next month's video. Another TV show I've started and I'm watching it with my roommates is Death Note. This is actually the first anime show that I'm sitting down to watch all the way through. And it's not a very long TV show, and each episode's only about 20 or so minutes. I'm on episode 4 now, haven't seen it yet, but we watched the first 3 episodes this past month, and it's really intriguing so far. Please no spoilers in the comments for this show either. I guess what I'm wondering more than anything is how is this show over 30 episodes, because it seems like we've already gotten so far in the story, and we're only through the first 3 episodes, and so I'm mostly just genuinely curious of where the show, what direction the show goes in. Anyways, guys, those are my first time watches for the month of January. Let me know what you guys were watching this last month. I'd love to hear it, and let me know what your thoughts were on the movies I watched and the TV shows I watched too. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a great day.